Welcome, everyone. My name is Gillom Smith. I am so excited to be with you all today, especially here at the OSINTUp virtual conference. Um, there's a lot to be discussed today, a lot we're going to talk about. My presentation is going to be on playing Duck Duck Goose, or excuse me, DuckDuckGo or Duck Duck with other search engines involved as well. Um, Again, my name is Gil Smith. I am a tradecraft advisor here at Fivecast, which you can see behind me here. As we go through this presentation, there's going to be a lot to discuss. There's going to be a lot that doesn't get discussed as well, and that's partially on purpose, but I think this is going to be a great talk, not only for the folks that are new to open source intelligence, but also to the ones that might have been in this this role before, where they're doing open source intelligence research. They've done that before. This is going to be a good refresher for you, and something to just get your mind to think a bit about, like, hey, when's the last time did I, follow up on some of these things, or learn about some of the other platforms, tools, and things that are out there for us? And so, as we can see here, we got DuckDuckGo all ready to go. But we'll look at a nice little slide here that shows us what we're actually going to be talking about, our scope for today, right? So, of course, we're going to be talking about search engines. Of course, with search engines comes other functions that are that need to be talked about, such as advanced searching. And then, as we dive into it, we're going to be finding things. We're going to be looking at different websites, different things, and different, I guess, aspects of our research need to be taken note of. So we need to make sure we are categorizing everything properly. We need to make sure that we are getting the right information to where if we needed to replicate how we found this information, we can do that again. And so all that falls underneath note taking as well. But again, with any of these things, there is a spectrum of what you can do, what you can use, right? Some things that are vastly open source, they're ready for anyone to use, and some other paid services, paid platforms that are out there as well. But all in all, we're going to start it very low to the ground. We're going to start very basic with what goes into starting your open source intelligence research. And as we dive into it, I'm again super excited to be with you all today. But if we were to go ahead and say, hey, I just got this, task. I need to go ahead and conduct some open source intelligence research. If you asked me a few years ago where to go first, it would definitely be Google. Google, even to today, is going to be something that I utilize. I just have to recognize its benefits, its pros, its cons as well, right? So as we go through and look at some of these other sites and we start navigating towards the information that we're looking for online, we have to take note of what Google is doing, what it's for, and how it can benefit us, and how it sometimes can take away from our objective, what we're trying to achieve. And so Google, I mean, you kind of can't go wrong with it. It's been around forever, just almost as long as I've been alive. So it's one of those things where pretty much every house, it's a household name. Everyone knows what Google is, what Google can do. To an extent, they're always coming out with more things, right? But it's going to be, I mean, it's going to be a great resource. It's just if I was looking for, a pair of shoes, or maybe I wanted to find a sweater to wear for buying things, I think it's an amazing resource. If we're talking about doing research on it, though, there's some caveats. There's some things that we should discuss prior to actually diving into Google and saying, all right, let's kick off our research on our home computer. Let's kick off research at work, right? There's certain aspects of Google that might not work best for open source intelligence research. While this is all neat and dandy, being able to search for things, typing, copy and paste or an image inside of Google and, do a reverse image search. These are all great, but as you're going through and you're browsing Google, just note that it's showing you not exactly what's out there as much as what it thinks you want to see. So this all plays in part with your privacy settings that you have enabled on your browser. This plays with the cookie aspect of internet browsing as well. And then, of course, Google itself, these guys, I mean, there's a reason why everyone wants to work for them. It's a great workplace. It's a great place to be, but there's also a level of intelligence that goes into Google and the Googlers that are out there that really, shock me, blow my mind as far as how they collect on entities and, get you to see what is actually out there, what they think you want to see. And so as they're forming, this algorithm around what you've seen prior to with your browsing, how that's connected to some of your other accounts, things like that. All of this plays a part in your research. And so I kind of mentioned it briefly earlier, but if we're just working at home, we're working on our home computer here, that's going to be an issue. That's going to be a problem. You want to protect yourself as much as possible because as we go down this route of open source research, while we could be just looking for the lowest cost for a pair of shoes or maybe a particular model of vehicle with a certain package attached to it, there's a lot more serious things out there that open source intelligence research can be put towards and is often put towards. And so when we're going down these often less traveled paths, finding information that's out there that's not necessarily for the public to see, that I know that's kind of a contradiction there. We still have to take into account our identity as we're browsing. We have to take into account what is being shared as we navigate to these sites once we do find them, whether it's on Google or something else. There's a lot that goes into it, and so with all that being said, Google is going to be a great place to start, 100%. But that's if you take the time to understand what it's also going to be doing for you, automatically, that is, right? And so there are, of course, ways of getting around this. If we're talking about what is it, incognito mode with Google, basically private browsing, right? This is going to be great, but it's still not going to do what we need it to do as open source intelligence researchers, analysts, so on and so forth. So just be mindful that, as you guys go through and you're using Google, there's some things that we can do a little bit better. And actually, if we navigate over to our next slide here, we can talk about once we get past all the security aspects, once we get past all of the considerations that we can take into account, and we're actually down into the weeds of using Google. You can't mention Google in research without talking about Google dorking. This is just going to be a nice little slide here that shows you some of the things that you guys can use. There's certainly books, talks, and other videos out there that will showcase what you can do with Google dorking. And this is something to wrap your heads around, that, each site might have their own form of, dorking, right? There might be ways of getting around to finding specific pieces of information. And so Google dorking is basically it's not really hacking as it's called, Google hacking, Google dorking. It's essentially advanced Boolean queries that are used to seek out information that's not necessarily as easily found. It's not, sponsored. It's not an ad that's being pushed to the top of the results. It's not information that's being widely shared or shown to users based off of, what their browsing history looks like. And so if we wanted to, using some of these, such as, the NURL, we can find different admin actions or pages for websites that we're traveling to. So if you wanted to go that route, open source intelligence widely overlaps with what is it? I guess information security, infosec or cybersecurity, right? So you'll see a number of users that are doing open source intelligence, just not necessarily to the effect that we are. sitting solely on the information plane, not diving into, whose IP is accessing this and how do we hack into that. We're not going there. We're just going to stick with how do we start doing open source intelligence research. And at Google, these are going to be some great resources for you because as you go through and you say, I just want to find out about say what is the new Nike shoe that's gonna come out, right? I can just go ahead and type in, new Nike shoe. That works for me. That's cool. But what we could also do is narrow down our results. We can focus on our results, and maybe I'll focus in on the Nike website, right? Maybe I'll focus in on certain forums that the shoe what sneakerheads what they look after, right? So these are different things that kind of lend to what I'm going to talk about next, which is we need to make sure that we are going about finding the information that's relevant in relevant places on the internet. And so whereas Google is a great resource for all that, there are other search engines that are out there that would allow you to find other pieces of information that might be more relevant to your use case, depending on, again, your location, depending on what the topic is itself, and then of course, just in general. And so some of these actually have a lot more capability behind them, a lot more consideration into your privacy, and some of them might not. So we have to keep all that in mind as we're browsing online. And so we'll get to the fun DuckDuckGo aspect right here. So you'll see that in the upper left-hand corner where we have DuckDuckGo, which is essentially a search engine. It's an entity where we can basically trust that they are protecting our privacy, right? We're not necessarily logging user information when it comes to DuckDuckGo. This is going to be primarily driven by advertising. And so something fun about DuckDuckGo is that we're not doing the whole, talking to your iPhone and affect how your ads are coming through. No, we're gonna be just whatever we type in. If I type in, white Ford Bronco, we can go ahead and see that, hey, I might see some, Ford ads pop up because I'm looking for, vehicles on the DuckDuckGo site. So it's going to be in relation to what you're searching versus what you've searched previously. Each new search will generate different ads for you. And so that's going to be something that is unique in the sense that it's trying to take care of you as far as your privacy goes. It's trying to protect you in your browsing, which is something that inherently a lot of other places, maybe a couple slides ago, aren't actually doing, right? But then we also have things like Bing. So Microsoft Bing is actually one of the cooler ones in my opinion. Reason being, I think they recently have included OpenAI's ChatGPT, a similar AI companion to their searching, and so you can actually use that to go through, work through your research there as well. And so these are some things that will allow you to benefit from using a different website than Google. But again, all these have other benefits to it. So I think Bing also has a decent image search, or excuse me, reverse image search option as well. Whereas Google also has one too. But again, you can kind of drive the boat here as far as what you're looking to get into. But on the right hand side, you might notice some things that you might not have seen before, or if you have seen them, okay, I see you out there doing the actual locations based searching. So for those of you that know, Yandex is going to be a search engine, but it's going to be primarily for a different platform. It's going to be for the Russian Google, if you will, right? So this is going to be a search engine primarily for Russia and Russia-like countries, very similar into that area of the world. And so whereas Google is again pretty high up there. Yandex is going to surpass them as far as popularity goes when it comes to finding information. And so when we're going through and doing our research, if I'm looking into a Russian company, or maybe I'm looking into a group that lives in Russia, whatever it may be, I might want to try Yandex out versus Google. I might find that my results more closely align with what I'm trying to find on Yandex than it would Google. And of course, as we go through, we kind of already talked about Google dorking, but each of these sites, take a second and go ahead and look and see, well, hey, how can I do some advanced searching on Yandex? How can I do it on Bing? Is it similar to Google? Is it not? These are all factors that we can dive into to better our research, especially as we're starting off. Now, with Yandex, you also might have noticed that there is another platform on this page. And so we have Baidu, however you would like to pronounce it. This is going to be our Chinese search engine that is going to be, again, very large, very popular, and certainly, taking out of taking away from Google's popularity in these locations, in these areas of the world where Google isn't the biggest. And so we can use these platforms to, again, refine our results and change how we're navigating. The only thing I would mention, though, is that as we use some of these other sites, whether they're from the US or any other country out there, we need to take our security, take our considerations into play when we're navigating to these. And so if you're navigating on your home computer using your your home IP address, these are all things that you might want to consider, because just as easily as we're going out and looking for information on, say, a company, maybe it is an individual, a group, wherever out in the world, this is going to be something that can easily be done back to you, right? And so we need to make sure that we're protecting ourselves. We are creating a level of separation between our work, ourselves as an individual, and then, of course, how we're browsing online, because we don't want what we're doing online to navigate back to our our work, let alone navigate back to ourselves, right? So being mindful, whether that's incorporating a VPN into your home network and incorporating other security architecture, and then, of course, maybe even not even using a VPN, but going through a service. So maybe going through and using something like Authenticate Silo, which we'll talk about a little bit later. These are going to be all things that you guys can do to make sure that as you're navigating to these platforms, you're not being tracked as you're doing your open source research. But these are going to be some more platforms that are out here for you. Some of these I recently looked aren't actually available anymore, such as the one that's crossed out. So this one, Parseju, I'm not necessarily sure how you pronounce it properly, but that's not going to be available for you. But all of these are just a couple sites that are out there, different locations, different popularities that would rival Google in their own respective locations. And so these are some things that we can take into account when we're looking at different locations and looking for information that might not be US based, right? So definitely want to keep this in mind. Feel free to jot some of these down. This is going to be one of those things where the more you navigate out of your comfort zone, Google's great. Everyone's comfortable with it, I'm sure. The more you'll be able to see, the more you'll be able to find, and who knows, it might be more relevant and easier to find if you're navigating using these. The only difference, of course, something that folks might have thought about as I talked about all these other platforms, is going to be language could be a barrier. Language is a barrier. So be sure that you do have a nice translation function enabled or readily available for you as you navigate through these websites, because more often than not, they are going to be, say, in Korean, or if it's Russian, it's going to be Russian, Chinese, so on and so forth. So all of these sites, you might want to take advantage of a translative platform, or translation platform rather. So be mindful of that. Google does, if you're using Google Chrome, I believe you can translate the page on there. The only thing is if you click the button on a, say if we're on a Chinese website, German website, pick your website, they usually have that nice little button that says, EN, change it to English, or maybe it's an American flag, right? Um, it can do the same thing for Dutch, for, Chinese, Japanese, so on and so forth. That's great. You also have to take into account what's being lost in translation as you're doing that, right? So that's not coming from the web browser, that's coming from the website. And so whoever has published that website, if they're trying to leave out certain tidbits, if they're trying to change certain aspects of their website, the information that's posted, that's as easy as a click of a button because you are going to a different site when that happens. So be mindful of that as you guys are, just using what's readily available on the websites. You might want to use either the browser or, go a little crazy and just actually open up a different translation platform to which you can copy and paste. But something I haven't talked about that should be talked about is going to be Boolean queries. This is similar to Google Dorking, it's just slightly different. Reason being, a lot of different platforms use this. A lot of different, not even just search engines, but a lot of different, again, platforms, software uses Boolean queries to assist you in navigating to different sites, finding different pieces of information, whether it be the Mexican cartel or maybe it's, just drugs and guns, so on and so forth. You guys can actually alter your search results by using these Boolean queries. We're now getting into that advanced searching criteria. We're getting into understanding how can we again affect our results in our favor. And so Boolean is pretty basic, but I would highly, highly recommend that you guys play around with it a little bit more, just because this is one of those things that even as you use it over time and you get good at it, it's always a nice refresher to say, you know what, I've been using NURL for a while, I've been using site for a while, but wow, I completely forgot I can use colon commands, or I completely forgot about the file type where I can just, instead of looking across a website for the PDFs or for the PowerPoints, I can actually just go ahead and say, hey, in URL and, file type. And then from there, I can navigate, through the rest of the material that pops up, through the rest of the results that come up. So, excuse me, with this, definitely a great place to foot stomp as far as you're searching, because like I said, all of those websites that I've named, they're going to be slightly different as far as how they advance search. And so doing your research there, understanding how you guys can impact your search results, you can't beat it. And then of course, as we navigate to the note keeping aspect, this is going to be a great outline, I would say, of things that you should do. Again, very basic. It literally says, basic investigative steps. But the idea is that as we're going through and we're navigating to these websites, using these search engines, we need to make sure we're keeping track of what we're doing. What is our goal by navigating to this particular website? Are we going down rabbit holes? So that's something to watch out for as well. We need to stay focused on the prize. And so as we find different pieces of information, logging where we found it. How do we navigate to said site? These are going to be all things that you guys can focus in on as you go through and create your report, create your document that is tracking all this. There's a number of tools that you can use out there for this. This is going to be, OneNote is king for me as I navigate, but there's also other sites out there. There's other tools available for you to use. So we have some of these here, KeepNote, OneNote, like I mentioned before, and we have some of these others that are out there that, again, help you take note and keep track of where you are when you're conducting your research, so that you can navigate back to when you eventually log out for the day. These are going to be things that as you go through, you can take a look at and really just say, hey, this one works for me, this one doesn't work for me. Maybe OneNote's not your thing, and so you find a different aspect. This goes back to saying that goes back to the saying of duck duck goose. We are literally playing that, whether it be with the search engines, with the advanced searching functions, or even the note keeping aspect as well. I did want to navigate really quick and show you guys the wonderful Google tab that I have here. And I wanted to look for, let's see, some cake batter. So I can look for some cake batter on here. I know it sounds like I'm getting off track, but I promise you this is for a reason. This looks good. I'll go ahead and click on all recipes here. And we can take a look and see how to make a nice, what is it, vanilla cake, simple white cake. That's fine. We can open up another tab here. Look at this. It's actually looking to see if we can enable some privacy features, right? So we can kind of keep track of how many ads are going to be coming up based off of my searching. So things like this are things to consider as we're using that Google platform. And you might notice that my search engine is still Google. So as I type in, cake, maybe I'll type in, cupcakes. And we'll see that we have, a few different things here. We'll see that Google's already pulling some, oops, let's not use my precise location, but it's already pulling that I'm in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, right? So it's already seeing that I'm pinging somewhere around here. Nice to know that I can get all this information. But again, when we're navigating using our platform, or excuse me, using uh, our hardware, using our computers for this open source intelligence research, things like this, that's going to be a no-no. I don't want to showcase where I'm at generally, let alone my actual IP address, things like that. I want to divert from using these sort of things. And so if we were to go to a different tab, maybe we can close these out here. Something to note is that as you go through, just set this up so you can see that here, we can actually go over to, I believe, right here and go to our extensions would be one thing, which is actually pretty neat to use, especially with the DuckDuckGo. I will talk about that in a sec. But settings. So going to our settings and then navigating to our search engine. This is going to also be a nice little place to understand what's available. So apparently people are still using Yahoo. That's definitely an old one. Haven't used it as much myself, but we can see that Google's up here. That's what we're automatically using. But Bing is available for us, DuckDuckGo, and even Yandex is on here automatically. So we can go through and select what's relevant to us. And so if I wanted DuckDuckGo, I can go ahead and just select that. We'll be good. If I wanted to focus in on some other platforms, I can just add them here. I can change around. This is going to be home base when it comes to those search engines and defining what you want to use. But this is all on my computer right here. This is going to be my Google Chrome that I'm using for my work. It's just going to be a different profile. So you saw I've set up the OSINT up profile here. But if we navigate away, now we can go through and I can say, what if I look for fresh kiwis? Oops, if I can spell kiwis. Now we can see we're looking through the DuckDuckGo. This is going to be our automatic search engine. But even this, it's going to impact it's going to be impacting how we're perceived online as well. And so some of the things that we can look into, I know DuckDuckGo also has a new browser that they've released. They have a Chrome extension that's going to also assist you in protecting your search history, what you guys are looking for as well. And so all of these things are tools that you can utilize as you're navigating. Now, again, I mentioned that I'm on my work computer. I am doing this, from my browser. That's one thing. maybe I want to protect myself and have a VPN enabled. Maybe I want to go a step further and create a completely different profile. Maybe I'll use this work computer only for my open source intelligence research. There's different steps that can be taken that would benefit you guys when it comes to navigating online. One of which I like to use, let's see if I can find it really quickly here, is going to be my authenticate silo. And so it looks like I've timed out. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here real quickly. And then we can take a look and see at all the, at the same level of, excuse me, we can look at some of the same browsers that we were just looking at. Wow. And from here, I know I'm protected by using this platform because they're going through, they're obfuscating all of my search history. This is not using essentially the same infrastructure that I'm using at my, my work computer. It's going to be doing a lot more than I can set up, even if I did have a VPN enabled. And so if I go let's see, I can click into this. And then I do love how their login process is. It is quite secure, if you ask me, because I can barely remember my login for it as well. But we're going to go ahead and get this shared on over with you so you can see what I'm talking about. So now we're inside of Authenticate Silo. It's its own browser, which is wonderful because now we can focus in on wherever we want to pull in information from. And so if we wanted to go to Yandex, perfectly fine navigating there. I know I'm protected. I can go to Baidu. I can go to DuckDuckGo. I can even use Google if I'd like here, just because everything's going to be protected from you guys. Now, this is going to be something that you'd have to get on your own. This is going to, I don't believe it's going to be a tool that you can use off the bat. Can't just navigate there. But it's one of the things that takes all that security talk, all that security consideration out of play, where I can now just focus in on whatever I'm searching for on the platform. I don't have to go through the search engine and changing, Google to DuckDuckGo. I don't have to worry about what is it? My cookies getting out there. Geez, I couldn't think about that either. So these are all going to be considerations that you don't have to worry about. There's a number of aspects to this platform, to include note taking, note keeping, that you guys can also use as well. And so when it comes to using the platform, I would say this. I mean, this is how I navigate and do my open source intelligence research. My Google browser, as you've seen before, wasn't set up for that. It's not set up for that. It's going to be more so for when I'm using, doing corporate related work, working with Fivecast, versus if I'm doing, open source research. I'll always navigate here just because I know anything that I click on, anything that I navigate to isn't going to affect my home system, my network, and then of course expose me and my identity, whether it be me or Fivecast, using this platform. And so if we navigate back, I can go ahead and wrap this all up for you guys. Just to say it again, I'm so glad that you guys were able to tune in, especially to the OSINTUp virtual conference. This is going to be one of those things that I look forward to attending next year, if not presenting again, maybe show you guys a few different aspects of my open source intelligence research workflow. But as far as starting your research goes, you can't go wrong with any platform that you decide to use. It's just a matter of understanding the considerations that you have to take into account when it comes to various search engines, different note-taking, different tools that you are using, because all this, again, is just a part of your toolkit, and you can always change out what you're using, what you're doing with your research, and staying flexible, always learning. That's only going to make sure you continue climbing, continue growing in your open source intelligence analysis. And so, again, I've been Gil Smith at Fivecast. I sincerely appreciate you all attending my talk, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. You enjoy the rest of the conference, the rest of your day, and feel free to reach out if you ever have any questions about what we've discussed today. And I look forward to seeing you all again. Cheers.